Hi everyone. I'm honored to deliver the keynote talk in the 2021 Eurotech Innovation Day event. My name is Gilad Japhet. I'm founder and CEO of MyHeritage and also a proud graduate of the Technion in computer science. I welcome all of you who are watching the Eurotech event, this celebration of entrepreneurship and innovation, and hope you make the most of it. In this talk, I hope to inspire entrepreneurs by sharing lessons and experiences from my long journey with MyHeritage. I'll also share key challenges and how they were overcome, and takeaways. I hope these will be useful for those of you who are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs or perhaps are well on your way to building your dream startup company. Before I share with you the details and milestones of my journey with MyHeritage, I want to spend just a few minutes to describe to you what this company is all about, to give you the proper context to understand the rest of my talk. In a nutshell, MyHeritage is an online platform for family history, which is also called Genealogy. This is the study and research of your ancestors and relatives through building a family tree and exploring and finding the unique life stories of your family members. Genealogy is a very fascinating pursuit, and there are tens of millions of people all around the world who are actively engaged in it. It's also a very viral pursuit because people who study their family history often get in touch with their family members and they infect them, so to speak, with this addiction. MyHeritage is all about allowing its users to make fascinating discoveries about themselves and their family. And over time, the platform evolved. It began with a system that allows people to build their family tree and explore historical records to uncover their family story. And then it evolved also into DNA testing. With the DNA test, you can discover your biological relatives, and that enhances your family tree, and also find your ethnic origins. Unrelated to that, last year, MyHeritage initiated and created a very large COVID-19 testing laboratory in Israel to help the country successfully fight off the pandemic. And these are today the three pillars of MyHeritage. Many people just don't realize how big the genealogy industry is. In fact, it is huge. And over the years, MyHeritage has become a huge platform. There are about 85 million registered users who are using the system, and it's very global. It supports 42 languages, and it is used pretty much in every country around the world. I'm extremely proud of the fantastic team of employees that I've assembled. Most of them are in Israel, but we also have employees in Europe and in the United States. The DNA database on MyHeritage has about 5 million people, making it the third largest in the world. And there are about 13 billion historical records about people throughout history. And all of that makes one gigantic platform that allows users to make meaningful discoveries about their family and about themselves. The business model we use is called freemium with subscriptions. And we actually started using it many years ago before that term became popular. It's a very powerful business model because it means that basic usage is free and everyone is invited to just sign up and use most of the features and functionality at no cost. And if they want to access premium content or power features, then they need to get an annual subscription. This results in a very good combination where the free aspects lead to strong distribution and also virality through word of mouth. But the subscriptions provide a very predictable and robust source of monetization. The end result is a strong business, and last year in 2020, the revenues have been more than $250 million. It took many years to build this company. It actually started in 2003, here in the same room where I'm recording this talk. And after 18 years of very hard work, we finally announced just a few weeks ago that we are being acquired by private equity firm Francisco Partners. After this introduction, I want to move on and tell you a bit about how the company was started. The beginning was very, very, very difficult. I was a first-time entrepreneur. I had no prior experience in starting a company. What I did know is that I wanted to create a company around genealogy, which was a passionate hobby of mine since the age of 13. It's very important when you create a startup and you invest your entire life in it, that it would be something that you're extremely passionate about. I thought that I could do it on my own. So I initially did not try to raise money. I used my own savings and put all of them into the company. And actually, after the first 2 years, my money ran out and the bank mortgaged all the property that I had, including my home. And that was a huge risk that I was willing to take because I thought I knew what I was doing. But after my money ran out, I realized that raising money was inevitable and that it was a mistake that I didn't actually start doing it earlier. And I started meeting a lot of investors in Israel and took in dozens of rejections because genealogy appeared to be a crazy idea to everybody. There were no precedents. There were no prior successful exits in this area, but I knew that it's something that I enjoy doing, and even if it won't be a great financial success, I still wanted to do it. After continuing relentlessly, I finally found private investors who believed in me, and a seed round 2 years after the company was founded was finally closed. I was able to pay back all the loans and get my life back and continue growing the business. We live in a shallow society. Everybody worships celebrities. And I learned to use that to my advantage. How did I do that? So in a startup company, you typically seek to innovate. And particularly in my company, I wanted to use advanced technology to boost genealogy to new heights in ways that have never been done before. One of the things that I invented was to use facial recognition technology for genealogy because I wanted to tag my ancestors in historical photos. I didn't want to put a label that my grandmother is 4th from the left on the 2nd row from the top. I wanted my grandma to be tagged and even automatically recognized. And back then in 2004, nobody was doing that. So in fact, I was the first to introduce automatic tagging, face detection, and face recognition in consumer internet applications. Until then, facial recognition was only used in security contexts to catch terrorists in airports. Now, I also realized that some technologies you don't need to build yourself. It's fine if you source them from another company and license them and utilize them in new and original ways. So I found the best company at the time, which was located in Germany, and I traveled to meet the CEO because I wanted to get a license. And it was a very expensive technology and I could not afford it. But somehow I charmed the CEO as one CEO to another, and he was willing to give me a license for free. I promised him that if I will be successful, I will do a lot to promote his company and technology, and that's how it eventually was. Now, working on the facial recognition technology, you want to train the technology. You need to use many faces of the same person. And that's very hard to do with historical photos because you typically don't have a lot of examples of people in your family who died 100 years ago. But celebrity photos are in an unlimited supply. So I ended up downloading a lot of them from the internet and using them to train the system. And during the training, by mistake, the system made a mistake and recognized me as John McEnroe, the tennis player. And apparently in that specific photo, we looked a bit similar. But I thought this could actually be a wonderful idea. How about we allow users to upload their own photo and our system would tell them which celebrity they look like the most. So this has nothing to do with genealogy. And we released a very popular application called Find the Celebrity in You, which has become so viral that it was used more than 100 million times in the earlier days of the internet. It became a huge sensation. Did that bring revenues? No. Did that cause our servers to crash again and again? Unfortunately, yes. There is a lot of noise and a lot of startups are fighting for attention. And when you create something that's very popular and viral, you get attention. And media and reporters contact you to learn more about your company. And this is when I was able to tell the real story of what MyHeritage was trying to do. And this was helpful in getting more investor interest because bigger investors were thinking the celebrity thing is nonsense, but if you have proven that you can build viral applications, then you can probably do well also with genealogy. So the path was paved for us to raise more money and become more successful in the future. When you create a viral application, it's very important to allow the users to very efficiently and quickly share their results to the social networks so that they can get their friends to come over and try your website. So we created a set of very clever widgets where you could share the celebrities that you resemble the most and bring your friends to try. We also invented something very cool called a lookalike meter. You probably know it when a child is born, a baby. There's a lot of talk about whether they resemble more the father or the mother. And I wanted to use science to answer that question once and for all. So I invented a widget where you could upload a photo of a father and a mother and a child, and using facial recognition and a lot of suspense as the meter goes from one side to the other, it finally settles on the parent that facial recognition says has a high resemblance to the baby. This helps foster virality, and when you create a viral application, these things are very useful to know. So, what are some of the key takeaways from this? If you're building a consumer internet startup, but not only that, because this is relevant to many other startup companies, viral features and viral distribution are a holy grail for you, because it means that the users are going to promote your products and your company for free, and you won't have to spend any dollars on marketing. So this is phenomenal if you can achieve it. To do something viral, you need to create a service or feature that are original and cool and unique, and typically that no one has done before. And often this is based on some cool technology that people are very curious about. But the secret is that you do not have to build this technology yourself. You can license it. You can look for it and scout for it and find it and license it and repurpose it. And you can take it from a completely different industry. Just like I went to the airport security industry and brought facial recognition technology and used it on the internet. Find the technology that you need, bring it over, and implement it in a way that makes it very easy to share the results to social media. Because social media is the platform on which virality thrives, and you need to make it very easy for users to share with their family and friends whatever they do on your product. If you can do that, then you can achieve the Holy Grail and create viral functionality, and that's going to be worth millions for your startup's valuation, distribution, public relations, and lead to a very rosy future. Next, I would like to invite you to open your mind to M&A, mergers and acquisitions, but not in the sense of you selling your startup company, but actually you being a buyer of other companies. This is a bit of out-of-the-box thinking, because too often entrepreneurs are very busy thinking about how do they exit and how do they sell their own company. They don't realize that to grow your business, a very good strategy is often to acquire other businesses that are not as successful as yours, or perhaps not as ambitious as yours, and achieve what is called 1 + 1 = 3. And I want to tell you an interesting story on how such an acquisition was extremely instrumental to the growth of MyHeritage. I previously described to you how important viral distribution is to a consumer internet startup company. But equally valuable is something called a product network effect. And what that means is that your service achieves a certain quality where the more users it has, the more data they provide, the more value your service can provide to attract new users. And this creates a virtuous cycle. More users, more value, even more users, and so on. It grows and grows, and it creates a huge barrier that is very difficult for your competitors to cross. In your area, always look to see if your product can attain a product network effect. And I knew that in genealogy and family trees, the product network effect will be achieved by matching family trees to each other. Imagine that you're building your family tree on MyHeritage, and the system compares the people in your tree with the people in all the other family trees to make discoveries for you. So I knew that I needed very good matching. And it just so happened that a company that had developed very impressive matching technology was available, and it put itself up for sale. Its name was Pearl Street Software, and they were based in Boulder, Colorado. I had heard that they were selling their business and I wanted it very much, but I had a very serious problem. I could not afford it. I almost had no money at all. And that's a chicken and egg problem. I needed money so I can buy that company. If I bought that company, raising money would have been easier because I would have had that impressive technology. Solving a chicken and egg problem is precisely the art of entrepreneurship. And I needed a push because at the time I didn't have a solution, but I was meeting regularly with a very smart investor who agreed to be a mentor for me. His name is Michael Eisenberg. And I remember going to meet him and describing the situation to him about this company that can give me the product network effect, but I simply cannot afford them. And can he offer me some advice? And I will never forget his smart advice. He said, "Gilad, get the hell out of my office. You are wasting my time and you are wasting your time. You need right now, with your current clothes on, to drive right to the airport. Take a plane to Boulder, Colorado. While on the plane, use the satellite phone to call up the seller and tell him that you have the funding and you are flying over to buy his company. And just go and do it. And once you have secured the deal, go to your investors, describe the situation to them. They're going to be very eager and happy to invest more money in your company to allow you to complete the acquisition." So I listened, I followed the good advice, and the rest played out exactly as Michael Eisenberg described. I negotiated the deal as if I had the money. I went back to my investors as if I had the deal, and I managed to create a new funding round and close the acquisition transaction simultaneously. And it was a big success because we integrated the matching technology into MyHeritage. We got the product network effect that we needed, and the rest is history. So, what are some of the takeaways from this? As an entrepreneur, your challenge is to create the reality that you need. To get there, you will often need to enforce your will and project your vision on other people. Use your intelligence for that. Most times, everybody will be convinced. If that doesn't work, use sheer persuasion. And if that fails, then you need to rely on your raw charisma. But you need to convince others that you know what you're doing, and you need to create the reality that you want. A product network effect is a very valuable quality for consumer internet companies and other companies. Try to achieve it and think about growing your business through acquisitions. Now, nobody was born as a serial acquirer of companies. This is an acquired quality. You can do it. You can learn it. These are acquired skills. Along the way, you can become a very sharp negotiator and buyer of other companies. At MyHeritage, following the acquisition of Pearl Street Software, I continued, and until now I acquired 11 other businesses, and I'm always looking for new opportunities. Focus on your execution, because your execution capabilities will determine the fate of your startup. And good execution means you get what you want. You successfully create the reality that you need. A few years went by and MyHeritage was growing well. It was a platform for family trees with matching and a product network effect. But I wanted to grow it bigger and faster. I knew that I had to take it to the next level. I had to reinvent the business. And I realized that to do so, I needed to expand into historical records. And the path led to another acquisition. And in that acquisition, I learned a very valuable lesson that I would love to share with you. So why are historical records so important? Genealogy is all about finding as much information as possible about your ancestry and your family members. And a lot of that information is found in other trees. But there is a limit to what people still remember. And over the years, a lot of valuable information was lost and people no longer remember it. But it is trapped inside historical records. These are records like birth, marriage and death records, burial, census, immigration and military records, old newspapers, old books, old yearbooks. They contain a lot of information about ancestral relationships and information about historical people. If you can add all that, if I could add all that to the MyHeritage platform, I knew that I could get an even stronger product network effect because I could do matching between the historical records and the family trees of the users and help them make discoveries that they will consider worth buying a subscription for. It just so happened that I did not have historical records and I even lacked the expertise in how to digitize them and license them and get them and use them. But an appropriate company that had that expertise was available in the United States and it wanted to be sold because it was unsuccessful. And its CEO contacted me because at the time I had some reputation of being a serious buyer. And at that point I needed badly to succeed in buying the company, but it had to be done at the right price. And this is where the next challenge began. I contacted the seller, a very nice guy by the name of Paul, and I tried to negotiate a deal. But it was very problematic because he refused to name his asking price. And I also refused to name the maximum price that I was willing to offer. And the negotiation was stuck in a deadlock and it looked like a dead end. The seller would love to do the deal at my maximum price and not at his minimum. And the buyer would love to do the deal at the seller's minimum price and not at their own maximum. Each side did not want to divulge their number so that the other side will not take advantage of it, and hence the deadlock. I thought about it, I understood the root of the problem, and I came up with a creative solution. And maybe it needs to be taught in business schools. So I invented a method of resolving this dilemma, which is based on two principles: escrow, which is a trusted third party, and compromise. I described my suggestion to the seller, and he accepted. The idea was the following: I would entrust my maximum offer secretly to an escrow who was a trusted person that both me and the seller knew. I would give that number to the escrow, and Paul, the seller, would also give his minimum ask secretly to the escrow. The escrow would not share with us the other person's number. The sole purpose of the escrow was to compare the two numbers and to see if my maximum was above the minimum of the seller. Because if it was below, then there is no deal. But if it was above, we agreed in advance that the deal would get done at the midpoint, the average between the maximum and the minimum. We agreed to compromise. Each of us would lose half of the delta, but we would get a deal done. And the idea was that this can be done only once. It cannot be iterated, because if it is iterated multiple times, you can game the system. You can give a maximum offer that is very low and there is failure, and then you can lift it bit by bit until you hit the minimum and so on. So the principle was we use an escrow, we use compromise, and we do it only once. The details were agreed. I gave the highest possible maximum because I wanted a deal done badly. The seller gave a pretty low minimum because he wanted the deal badly as well. We gave our numbers to the escrow, and we were both very happy when we got back the news that my maximum was $4.3 million, the seller's minimum was $4 million, and the deal got done midpoint at $4.15 million, and it ended up that our numbers were extremely close. We were very happy, we solved the problem, and we got the deal done. We took all the historical records into MyHeritage. We created automatic matching with family trees. We reinvented the business, and we grew it substantially thanks to this novel method of negotiation, which was a great success. I'll summarize some of the takeaways from this story. First, in negotiation, try not to name your price. Try to stall so that the other side will lose their patience and will name their price first. And then you can use that to your advantage. Now, if you enter a deadlock situation, try to find a creative way to overcome it. It's very important to try to avoid a zero-sum game in negotiation. A zero-sum game is a situation where the gain of one side is the immediate loss of the other side. To avoid that, try to change the parameters and find another way to evaluate the deal so that instead of a zero-sum game, it will be a win-win situation. For example, one way is to use achievement milestones which increase the price. And this way they justify a higher price. But there are many other solutions. You will need to be creative along the way, not just in negotiation, but in every aspect of your startup. And I think most importantly, you're going to meet many people throughout the journey of your startup. Try to treat them with trust and respect. The good karma that you will distribute will flow back to you. And if you can manage your way while collecting a lot of friends and admirers rather than enemies, I think your good future is pretty much guaranteed. The MyHeritage journey continued, and we are now at the year 2016. The business has been growing well with family trees and historical records and product network effects, but it was time to boost the growth of the business even more and reinvent the business again. And I realized that the path for achieving that has to go through DNA testing. And here, again, I had to solve a very tough chicken and egg challenge of creating a product network effect from scratch. And I'll tell you all about it. A DNA test is a great complement to traditional family history research. It helps you find your biological family members through DNA matching. When you take a DNA test, your DNA is compared to the DNA of all the other people in the database. And whenever there is some shared DNA, you know you're related and you can try to trace the common ancestor from which you both inherited the same DNA. And a DNA test can also tell you your ethnic origins with pretty good precision. So it's a great complement to genealogy. The problem was that MyHeritage wanted to enter this field a little late in the game. The year was 2016. DNA testing was taking off in the industry, but there were two heavyweight gorillas in the market, Ancestry.com and 23andMe, and they completely owned the market. And the problem was that a DNA test is a perfect example of a product network effect. The value that you get is from the matches. So to attract new users, you needed to have a huge DNA database that can give them a lot of matches. That's the only way new users would come. But you needed all those users in order to build that huge database to begin with. So for the new users, you need a huge database, but for the huge database, you need the new users. You need the chicken and the egg at the same problem. And if you can't create them, your product will never take off. And that was the serious challenge that I had to somehow overcome. Here's how we solved the challenge. First, I identified the weak point in the business model of both Ancestry and 23andMe. When you take a DNA test, you are free to export your DNA data because you own it. Problem was that both Ancestry and 23andMe refused to support the import of DNA data from the other service into their platform for DNA matching. They were afraid that if they supported the import, other customers would then purchase the DNA test only from the other supplier and import to their platform without paying them. And they didn't want to lose the revenues. So they were in a deadlock. Neither one of them wanted to support import first, and neither one did. And I knew that customers wanted to get as many DNA matches as possible. And if you were a customer on Ancestry.com, you still wanted to have matches with 23andMe users, but often you didn't want to test your DNA again and pay again on the other platform. So what we did was we announced that we are building a new DNA solution that is going to be neutral, like Switzerland, so that it would welcome DNA imports from all the services and that they would be free. If you had tested on Ancestry or 23andMe, you are invited to upload the DNA data to MyHeritage and you'll get matches against the users from the other platform. But the upload is free only if you do it now before the service is fully built up. Later, it's going to cost you. If you're willing to be patient, you will be rewarded because you will get the matching for free forever. This was the offer, and because MyHeritage had a very strong reputation with millions of users, many of them trusted us to fulfill our promise. They uploaded DNA data in very large numbers from Ancestry and 23andMe, and we created a substantial database. And we started providing the matches. And 6 months later, when our own DNA product was ready, and you could buy a DNA test from us, we launched it. And our DNA database was quite loaded at the time. So we were able to give good matches to the users. Users were able to come in and get valuable matches that they couldn't get elsewhere. We managed to grow a huge database and attract new users. We solved the chicken and egg problem. We launched the product when the database was already huge. We created a huge database simply by offering the matching for free if users were willing to be patient and upload before the service was fully ready in order to not have to pay money in the future. This was the creative solution, and our DNA database was able to grow and thrive since then. And now it has about 5 million customers. It's one of the fastest growing in the world. And outside the United States, and specifically in Europe, our product is the most popular DNA test in the world. The takeaway is once again emphasizing the importance of a product network effect, if you can achieve it. Now, having a product network effect is more difficult if you're not the first to launch into the market. Because if you are the first, then the customers have no alternative and they're going to bear with you as you grow. But if you are not the first to launch a product and the market is partially saturated already, you will need a creative solution to overcome the product network effect. And I hope that the solution I described that we used successfully with MyHeritage DNA will inspire you if you ever face a similar situation. The MyHeritage journey continues, and we are now in the year 2020. MyHeritage is a successful family tree platform with historical records and DNA testing with lots of product network effects, and nothing is really missing. Except that at the other side of the world, coronavirus is beginning to grow and it has other plans for the world, unfortunately. I admit that I had no prior experience with viruses and diseases, but I do understand numbers and analytics and exponential growth. And when I saw the growth and the potential risk of coronavirus in its early days in the beginning of 2020, I was very, very seriously concerned, and I thought the world is facing a huge threat. I wrote a memo to the MyHeritage employees and I said that we need to do something about it. We cannot sit aside. We have capability. We are successful. We have expertise in DNA testing. It has really nothing to do with coronavirus, but maybe we could leverage that expertise and the execution capability and help the world with testing. It was clear to me that if you can detect the virus in people, you can cut transmission chains and you can eventually overcome the pandemic. What I did was I got in touch with BGI, which is a successful Chinese company that we were in touch with. And we understood that they were instrumental in helping China overcome the virus in its areas. And they were also building methodology for COVID-19 laboratories. So we collaborated and we agreed that we will work together to try to help Israel. I created a quick business plan and I showed it to the MyHeritage board of directors. It was about MyHeritage building a huge COVID-19 lab in Israel in 3 weeks at our expense, at our risk, and offering it to the state of Israel that was badly in need of testing, and completely take the risk upon ourselves. And I said, maybe there is business here and maybe not, but even if there's no good business, we need to be good citizens and we need to help our country. I'm very proud that the board of directors supported me. I created a business plan and then I pitched it to the politicians in Israel for the first time in my life. And dealing with politicians, believe me, is not easy, especially in Israel. But I was very determined and I had a will of iron, and I convinced them to give us a chance. And I signed an agreement with the Ministries of Defense and Health in Israel, and they let us build a lab. And within 3 weeks, the largest lab in Israel, bigger than all 32 labs that were there by then, was up and running, and quickly became instrumental in helping Israel, together with the vaccination efforts, very successfully vanquish the virus. Now, I have to tell you, this was the most crazy project I've ever done in my life. Completely suicidal. I have not slept for months, and many from my team as well. The only reason I had confidence that we could achieve it and we could deliver on a promise to build such a huge lab while having no prior experience at a very difficult period of lockdowns when you couldn't fly equipment and personnel and everybody was locked down, was only because I knew that I had a phenomenal team at MyHeritage with wonderful employees, with just unlimited execution capability. And I wanted to utilize all that to do good. So fast forward into June, the lab was up and running and started doing a large number of tests in Israel. And by now, it has completed more than 3 million tests. At the peak times, it was doing more than 40% of all the tests in Israel. And who knows what the situation would have been without this lab. With the help of the COVID lab, we evolved our mission from changing lives to also saving lives. And this is what I'm proud of the most in our adventure of setting up this lab. The fact that we were able to save so many lives in Israel. This was done through a very successful collaboration with a program that is unique to Israel for testing old people in the old age homes. It was led by Professor Nimrod Maimon, who came up with an ingenious plan. Throughout all of Europe and in many other countries, mortalities from COVID were especially prevalent in the old age homes, because in the geriatric institutions were the people who were oldest and most vulnerable. And he understood that the risk in those institutions is from the caregivers, the staff. The staff is going out and coming in and bringing the virus with them. He devised a system using our lab where the entire staff of all the old age homes in Israel was tested every single week using our lab exclusively and utilizing our excellent turnaround time, sometimes 4 hours, but on average between 6 to 12 hours only. So we would get every day the tests, the samples, we would return the results same day, and any infection would be detected on the spot and the transmission chain cut, and the people in the old age home were spared and saved. And as the graphs indicated, based on publications by this program that was called The Shields of Fathers and Mothers, the mortality in the old age homes, which used to be more than 50% of the fatalities in Israel, dropped to less than 30%. And as a result, the mortality in all of Israel was declining. We calculated together with them that we saved, for sure, between 500 and 1,000 people in the old age homes in Israel. These days, infection levels from COVID-19 in Israel are very low, and it looks like the pandemic is about to be eradicated, which is great news. It also means, though, that our lab will end its duties soon. So for now, we can cherish the wonderful memories of setting up this lab from a huge empty space into such a beautiful lab and utilizing the company's expertise in so many different areas. And we now look to leverage this asset through future business opportunities not related to COVID-19. My takeaway from this is very simple. At MyHeritage, we have a motto. which has been affected by Google. Google say, "We will do no evil." I wanted MyHeritage to take this several steps further and not just not do evil, but actually do good. Our motto at MyHeritage is that we are going to not just do well as a business, but also do good. And that's for the sake of doing good. I encourage you, if you end up creating companies, that you try to utilize the incredible power and strength that is within those companies to do good. Anytime you do something like this, it's a blessing. In Hebrew, it's called a mitzvah. You can do good for the world. You can do good for people. You can do good for your country. And I argue that if you do good, good things will happen to you, and it will also translate to excellent business results. But if it does not, just doing good is a great goal on its own. And I want to share with you the most recent time when we reinvented our business. And the goal has been to widen our target audience, especially the demographic, because genealogy by its nature is mostly appealing to older people. This is the time in their life when they are more interested in exploring their family history and passing on their family stories to the younger generations. But we wanted to attract younger audiences. And the way we sought to achieve that is through photographs. Photos just make everything more interesting. When you add photos, you don't have any more just dry lists of names and facts, but history comes to life. And you can see yourself in the faces of your ancestors because of the, of course, genetic inheritance. So we wanted to invigorate our service and differentiate it from the competitors by adding extremely cool features on photos that would bring history to life using artificial intelligence and attract younger audiences to MyHeritage. And here's how we achieved that. One of our employees named Maor came up with a great idea of using AI to automatically colorize black and white photos. He found a very good open source for that, and he implemented it, and that won first prize in the hackathon. That got me very curious, and I started looking at the source code, and I found a comment by the developer, a talented guy by the name of Jason from a startup called Deoldify, and he wrote that they're working on a new commercial version of the technology that is not open source and has not been published yet. I became very excited. I reached out to him and I convinced him to license this technology exclusively to MyHeritage, where we can become a valuable design partner for this technology. I was happy that he agreed, and we implemented this technology in MyHeritage with great results. When you colorize a black and white photo, this is immediately more appealing to younger audiences and in fact to everybody, because it's easier to connect to the photo when it's no longer in black and white. You can feel that you are closer to the people in the photo. I went on and I licensed additional technologies from other sources, for example, to enhance the focus, because historical photos are often blurry. And when those technologies were combined with colorization, the results were awesome. So we call those features MyHeritage in Color and the MyHeritage Photo Enhancer, and both of them went viral. And their combination was even unique. The users were blown away. They were uploading millions of historical photos to MyHeritage. They were enhancing them using AI, and they were sharing them with their family members, creating a viral effect. When you have something that's successful, what you do is you push further and stronger, and you enhance it to increase the success. So following the colorization and the enhancement, we licensed more technologies that can improve historical photos. We licensed another technology from Deoldify that can refresh the colors of vintage photos taken in the 1950s to the 1990s where the colors have faded. And the difference is phenomenal. It just brings back those photos to life. Then we went on and we added another amazing technology from the Oldify that can automatically repair scratched and damaged photos in just one click. And the results are also stunning. All these technologies work in layers. You can take an old photo and you can repair it, enhance its focus, colorize it, but the best is yet to come. We continued to look for exciting ways to bring historical photos back to life. And probably the most impressive and amazing thing you can do with a photo is to actually convert it into the most popular media format on the internet today, which is video. We scouted and found a very interesting Israeli startup called DID. They developed deepfake technology that was primarily targeting the entertainment industry. We immediately understood the potential of using that for family history, which no one has done before. So we approached them, we negotiated, and we licensed this technology. To make sure that people don't see it negatively as deepfake, we called it deep nostalgia. We made it clear that people are not allowed to use it with living people without their permission, but it's meant to be used nostalgically, mainly on ancestors and deceased people, so that you can bring them to life. The result, as you can see in this example, is just stunning. You can take an old, blurry black and white photo, utilizing all our technologies and this new deep nostalgia, and this person suddenly moves their head and smiles and is animated and looks very much alive. This has stunned people worldwide, and it allowed them to reconnect with loved ones that they lost, especially people who lived before they were ever captured on video. It allowed them to reimagine how this person looked and smiled with extremely emotional responses. Within a few hours of launching this in the world's largest genealogy conference, it went viral, and people were uploading photos like crazy and sharing them with their family and friends. And within a few days, it became the #1 iPhone application in the United States, beating popular applications like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. It was unbelievable. It was reaching the #1 place in 28 additional countries, and it was a sensation. We've had about 72 million photos animated in the first 5 weeks. The issue with a viral sensation is that at some point it declines. And I have a saying, which I made up, that every trend comes to an end. And even the word trend has end inside it. So deep nostalgia is currently declining in popularity also. But what you can do is keep it alive as much as possible by adding new features and functionality. And just a few days ago, we added 10 cool new animation templates that can prolong the interest and allow people to express a wider set of gestures and expressions with the photos of their ancestors. So I'm going to play this cool video to show you some of those new animations. So here are some takeaways from this. First, hackathons are a great addition to your startup culture. I strongly recommend them. You can empower your employees to suggest and bring up, bottom up, amazing ideas. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the quality and the value that you can get from potentially every one of your employees. Next thing, again, I emphasize the importance of creating services and features that go viral. If you manage to achieve that, Remember to make it very easy to save the results, to share them to social media. And finally, to create something cool and amazing and viral, you don't necessarily have to build everything yourself. You can also license or acquire technologies that others have built. You can scout, locate, negotiate, and bring technologies that you can package in unique and original ways to create amazing things that no one has done before. If you think of it, the Apple iPhone, for example, is chock full of great technologies, but Apple has not built and created each and every one of them. A lot of them have been licensed or acquired, and you can do the same in your startup and achieve amazing results. I hope you have enjoyed following me in the journey of MyHeritage and listening to the takeaways. And I don't have much time left, so I want to conclude with what I describe as the secret sauce for success for an entrepreneur. And these are what I think the main ingredients for an entrepreneur to be successful. And the first and most important one is passion. If you are passionate about what you're doing and the startup and its idea, then you have most of what it takes to be successful. If you're not passionate, maybe being an entrepreneur is not for you, or you need to seek another idea to pursue. But without passion, there is no life and there is no love. Passion is everything. The next main ingredient is execution. Execution is everything. I've seen many companies that had great ideas, but failed on the execution. I've seen companies with fairly unoriginal and mediocre ideas, so it seemed, but with amazing execution, they prevailed and became huge companies. Execution is making things work the way you need and want. If you can execute, the sky's the limit. You can do everything. I believe that success requires a lot of hard work. I don't believe in shortcuts. I think you need to be prepared to put in a lot of hard work and combine it with passion and capability for execution. And finally, there needs to be a big ingredient of luck, pure luck. Some say that luck comes to those who deserve it, but a lot of business successes just occurred thanks to luck. We need to acknowledge it, and we need to try to influence our luck as well. I want to add two more ingredients that I think are necessary as well. One is chutzpah. There's no real translation for this Hebrew word, but when you have chutzpah, it means that you have defiance and you can do everything. You feel that you can do everything, and chutzpah in the good sense is that you can solve any problem, and who is anybody to tell you that you can't do anything? Believe in yourself is the most important thing, and carry chutzpah with you, but do it politely and nicely. Finally, take care of your health. Your body is your temple. If your health fails, nothing else will work. So invest in exercise and sports. Take care of your nutrition, take care of yourself, take care of your employees as well and their well-being. And if you have those ingredients, I wish you the best of success. If you have questions for me, the slide here has my email address. You are welcome to write to me. I'm very busy, but I'll do my best to answer. Thank you so much.